Braces are exciting because it can give you that perfect smile, but trust me, there will be stages where the pain can be excruciating. From those tiny little spacers to the poking wires, it's not always fun. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you the most painful stages I went through for the past 5 years of wearing my braces, how long each stage lasts, and what are the exact tips that help me survive. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect and how to get through all of them without losing your mind. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So, the first thing that we have on our list is the stage wherein you're gonna get your spacers. For those who do not know what spacers are and their purpose, especially in orthodontics, is spacers are also known as orthodontic separators, are small rubbers, or they can also come in like metal rings. These are placed between the back molars to gently create a space. These small rubbers makes room for metal bands that anchor the braces, and it also loosens tight contacts between teeth. And aside from that, it also prepares your mouth for the next stage of orthodontic treatment. Story time. So I needed to have these spacers before because my orthodontist decided to get me the molar rings. And so before you have those smaller rings to be installed into your mouth, it has to have a space for the rings to get inserted in between your teeth. I was advised to have those spacers for a week, and I recalled that that was one of the worst week of my whole orthodontic treatment because it was just so painful and the discomfort was just over the top. Of course, there are other common stages of experiencing discomfort and pain, and one of the common is the poking wires, but this is different because this is something that I did not expect at all. I think one of the reasons why this was one of the most painful stage in my experience is because that spacer dug deep into my gums, and the worst part is whenever I'm eating, I feel like it gets deeper and deeper until to the point that I cannot see the rubbers. So I think that was the worst part. So what are the practical tips you can do to get through this stage? So there are two common things usually, and that is to stick to softer foods such as mashed potatoes, smoothies, and those sort of food. You can take that. And the second one is to get or take pain relievers. So I suggest that you only take pain relievers if it's too unbearable. Just a reminder, it usually lasts only for a week, but I suggest that you better prepare yourself or just take softer foods whenever you have these spacers. But you might ask, Mary, what if it's too painful and I don't want to take the meds, and at the same time I already stick to softer foods but it doesn't even help? So the first thing that I would suggest is you call your orthodontist and tell them what's going on, and that way your orthodontist will tell you what you can do. Second is I suggest this only during desperate times. Like for example, you're out of town and there's no way that you can contact your orthodontist or you cannot go to the clinic. I suggest that you just have to remove the spacers. Like just remove them. Give your gums a time for them to breathe. So give it a break. Just remove your spacers. And then after a day, you can just bring it back. Because I know there will be days that it will be so painful and actually it can affect your day to day tasks. So it's difficult to focus if there's something going on, discomfort into your mouth. So I suggest that just remove the spacers. I'm wondering for those who also have these spacers, have you also experienced this as well? Let me know in the comments below if you also have the same experience that I had with having these spacers. The second on our list is when the food gets stuck in between your teeth. Okay, let's talk about food because once you have your braces, the food has this new hobby of finding impossible corners in your mouth to hide in. These are not the usual food that gets stuck in between your teeth. These are usually the ones that are so stubborn that you cannot remove them just by merely brushing or flossing. So I would suggest that if you have these food that are stuck, I would recommend that you get a water flosser because water flosser are usually the ones that get rid of them when your brush and your floss can't. This is a bit similar to the first one except that it is the food that gets stuck in between your teeth. And we all know that once a food gets stuck in there, bacteria will start to grow, and this will cause bad breath. This stage might be uncommon, but I still included them into my list because I've been experiencing them. And I would say it is one of the most painful stages that I've been going through my orthodontic treatment. Before, I didn't really have this issue, but I think once you have the braces for a long time already, of course, the braces will alter your teeth, and there are spaces in between my teeth that created a huge gap. And so it's so difficult that the brushes and even the flosser, the thread flosser, cannot remove them. So I always use the water flosser. And I think one of the challenges with this is whenever I go out, I don't bring my water flosser with me. So the only thing that can get it out is to have a toothpick or something sharp to just get it out. But there's still times that it gets dug deep and I cannot remove them. So for the whole time that I'm outside, I feel the pain. So, what are the practical tips that I suggest here? So, I think I've already mentioned this a while ago. That would be the water flosser, but of course, you cannot bring your water flosser everywhere. Second would be in the interdental brush, and third is I suggest that you just avoid the food that you know can get stuck in between those spaces, especially when you're in the public setting because you don't have your water flosser. And even though you have your interdental brush, it can still be very difficult to remove them. Now, moving on to another stage, and that would be the misalignment discomfort. When your teeth starts to move, sometimes the shift can be a little bit too much to the point that you cannot close your mouth properly. Also, there are sudden shifts in the way you chew your food. So it can be a little bit difficult to chew your food because of the misalignment of your teeth. Also, the worst part of this stage is your smile can be a little bit weird in front of the camera because of course there are misalignment of your teeth. But you just have to remember that this is just some stage, and we know that if your teeth are misaligned, it means that your teeth are going through some transition to a better smile. So for this stage, I don't really have a practical tip. All I can say is you just have to go through this stage. And maybe if there is something that I would suggest, this is the most common one, and that is to just stick to softer foods so that it'll be easier for you to eat and you don't have to suffer that much. The misalignment of your teeth is just a proof that your braces are working. So keep it up. All right, so the next stage that I'm gonna share is the adjustments. I think this is one of the most common stages that is painful in orthodontics, and I think every one of us will agree to this. So, we all know that, for example, having these metal braces, we have to go through the monthly visits with our orthodontist. And we all know that for the next 72 hours, we have to deal with the soreness of our teeth. But again, this is not always the case because there will be some adjustments that you won't really feel any pain. But there are also days after the adjustments that is a bit different from any other adjustments that you had for the past month. So, what would be the practical tips that I would suggest during this stage? The most common one is, the soft food again, stick to softer foods. And another is always have your orthodontic wax with you because there are times that after the adjustments, aside from the soreness that you can feel, there might be new stuff or appliances that your orthodontist will have to install them, like tads, those sort of things. You can use the orthodontic wax to just cover them. And the third one is you can swish with an ice water all over your mouth just to numb the pain. And I would also suggest that maybe this is the stage that you can also eat an ice cream. Although I don't really recommend ice cream because they're sweet and they're not good for your teeth. But if it's too painful, then maybe for this time you can have your cheat day and have an ice cream just to numb the pain. During this stage, you can think of it like a workout. So if we have a sore muscle, means progress. So maybe if you have sore teeth, also means progress. And the last but definitely not the least, and one of the most common pain during your orthodontic treatment, and that is the poking wires. These poking wires usually appears when there is a broken bracket, so the wires can be left hanging there, and so the end of the wire can end up hitting the sides of your cheeks. Also, when the wire wasn't caught at the very end or the edge of the bracket, this will hit the sides of your cheeks. So always check before you leave the clinic if there is a poking wire at the very end of your molar. You might think that the biggest pain will be the adjustments that you do every month. Wait until you have those poking wires, because those poking wires are gonna stab you right into your mouth. And so, if this happens, one of the major practical tips that I can suggest is, yes, you got it right. It's the orthodontic wax. Also, before I forget, during this stage, there are times that the orthodontic wax might not work. So, I suggest that you have to call your orthodontist and have those poking wires cut as soon as possible, because if you don't do that, it will continuously hit the sides of your cheeks, and before you knew it, you already have those bleeding cheeks inside. So better call your orthodontist right away. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you and prepare you if ever those stages occur. But the key thing to know is all of these stages are just temporary. So you don't really have to suck in into the discomfort and pain that you might feel at that moment. You just have to remind yourself that this will all just pass through and you're gonna get through it using the practical tips that I suggested. The spacers don't last forever, and the food that gets stuck in between your teeth can be removed by the water flosser. Also, remember that the adjustments just come and go, and lastly, the poking wires can be fixed. If you try to look at it in a bigger picture, every bit of the discomfort that you feel is actually just a progress towards the smile that you've always wanted. Now, I'd love to hear from you which among these stages has been painful in your case. And also, for those who haven't had their braces, what do you think would be the most painful of all the stages that I've mentioned in this video? Comment below, because who knows, someone might also be going through the same stage as you are and they can learn something from you. Alright guys, if you find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to know more about braces or braces tips, you can watch this video. And if you want to track the progress of my braces, you can watch this video or subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much guys, and I'll see you on my next videos.